Hi everyone, I'm Alexander Zeitlin. This is the Lockdown Lecture Series for Intermediate Violin, adapted from the Alios Foundations course for the classroom setting. Let's jump into Lesson 3. So where we left off, I had assigned everyone to start to do some quality work on the A section, so A1, A2, A3, A4. And I assigned you guys to all do your accuracy work for the B sections. So essentially you should have 4 polished sections and then B1 and B2 like memorized and with the metronome. Now if you would like to play through B1 and B2 with me, I will not play with metronome, but this will give you a chance to hear what they sound like. So here's B1 and B2. 1, 2. So if you've done your homework, you should be able to keep up with that pretty easily, and even without the music. So the A sections, you should have been working on vibrato and beautiful sound, and I'll play through those with you guys, and you should be able to keep up pretty easily as well. So here is the A sections. Now, I'd like to take a moment and address a little bit of our very last element of our work here, and that is shaping. So if we've kind of done everything here, we have all the accuracy work done, intonation and quality work is done, we're going to take a look at what makes the piece special and kind of pick a few moments to particularly make special. You'll notice, in our reference recording that there's a big crescendo diminuendo swell. We call that a hairpin crescendo. So it kind of goes up and down. And then we have a bigger one here. But at the end of the A2 section, it does not get softer. It kind of like keeps getting louder. And then it diminuendos to here. So it's good to pick up on some nuanced dynamics. Now, I highly recommend listening to the original narrated recording, and you'll hear the story behind it. And essentially, our main character is dreaming, and he is kind of flying low among the waters. And you can hear in the piano part that it's very shimmery. It kind of reminds you of the ocean water. And then this is a very beautiful soaring melody, also very, very much kind of depicting what we have in the dream. And you also notice there's this beautiful bell sound in the piano part, and then it turns out that it's an actual doorbell that you find out later when he actually wakes up. But you have this beautiful melody right here, and it has 4 variations on it, each one at varying intensity and different colors and harmonies. And on the 4th time, it sort of dies away. So we're going to slow down a little bit at the end of the 4th one. So we're marking some dynamic details, creating some really interesting shapes with it. And then we have an agitato marking. You notice that everything about the recording becomes more agitated. Let me switch this here so you guys can see a little better. So the tempo moves forward. So I'm going to put an arrow forward here. And then this sort of crescendos even more here, and then diminuendos here. The ritardando here tells us we should slow down. So I'm going to put an arrow backwards. I probably want my vibrato and all of my quality work to reflect that as well. And then here I have another ritardando at the very end. And I'm going to slow down even more. And so I will play through it, and I'm going to kind of talk through the shaping parts of it. And when you guys are practicing it, I want you to exaggerate it as much as possible, all of these things. Often are expressive things, like we think we're making a crescendo, and you can tell that you are, and maybe I can because I know you're supposed to, but your audience might not. So I highly recommend exaggerating all of your expressive elements. So let's play it from the top. You guys could just listen, or you could try to play along with me if you're listening to the recording a second time. Here's what we got. So mezzo piano, medium soft. A small swell. Softer. Now even softer than when we started. A big swell. Stay loud. Softer piano. Slower. Now faster and more intense. 1, 2, 3. Slower, and 2, and 3. Softer. Very slow. Now I didn't move too much because, I want, if I move the microphones right here, it's going to affect the sound. Your movement should affect the sound. So I want you to take all those special elements that make the music really come alive and see what you can do with it. Of course, for the B sections, work on your vibrato and intonation and sound and movement as well. And by next week, you should have a nicely shaped, excellent quality piece. Your other homework, aside from quality and shaping work for this movement, is to learn the accuracy portion of the next two movements. So I will mark sections. Here's our second movement. These movements kind of go together. So I will mark them all together. And you guys can copy down the markings. Here's our A1 section. Good news, the A2 section is the same. It's the same notes. We will learn there are some differences later. We'll call this our B1 section as we go on to the third movement. And this is our B2 section. So your homework is take one section at a time, learn the notes, add the rhythm and bowings, turn on the metronome, and lastly, when you are confident that you've learned it correctly, memorize it. So I know this is sort of a crude addition. I simplified it really quickly just so you guys would have one without any of the interludes. I just removed them all. So I know some of the markings are impacted, like the tenuto marks or staccato marks. But this should still give you a pretty good idea of what to work on. All right. Let's see, did I miss anything? Accuracy, quality, and movement one review. Since we have a little bit of time, I'll talk a little bit about some of the things that you can do once you feel like you've really learned your sections well. So when you are working on your accuracy work, and after a while you feel like I know the notes really well, I know it with metronome, I know it by memory, then the most important things to review are just these 2 steps. Just periodically check it with metronome, make sure you have it memorized. At least once, make sure you're looking at your music, because it's very easy to forget a bowing and think that you're doing all the bowings right, and because you're not looking. For your quality work, once you've put all of those things together, you can just do like a 3-time general run through for quality and kind of listen for all those things all together. In fact, that's a good thing to do, because again, you always want to listen with fresh ears. If you think that your weakest thing was your vibrato, if you're working on it right after a few weeks, your vibrato should be good. Maybe now you need to work more on movement. Maybe your movement gets better, you need to check on your intonation again. Play it once for quality and just listen. Play it again and try to improve on whatever you heard, and then even a 3rd time. So kind of keep your quality in check. But basically what that means is, once you have learned, for example, the whole first movement, all of your A and B sections, you can just play through the whole thing once with metronome and by memory, just to make sure it's all there. And then 3 more times for quality. Little by little, over the long-term repetition, you will see progress. It's not the kind of progress that you will see just in a day or 2, but it's also not going to take 6 months. Probably in a few weeks, it just gets better and better. And it also cuts down the practice time you have on your learned movement, and then you can spend more time on your new movement. So that's it for lesson 3. See you next time for lesson 4.